We do not choose what they do to us and the actions that they take. So we have soul contracts with all of the main relationships in our life in this lifetime. And though we choose before we come here who is going to help us fulfill our soul's evolutionary journey by teaching us certain lessons. Now, what I always say to my clients is that we choose the characters, we do not choose what they do to us and the actions that they take. This is my belief because I do not teach to my clients that they manifest their trauma. I'm really big on that. I don't want you believing or feeling that if you've gone through abuse or if you've been through really at the hands of horrible situations because of other people, I don't want you to believing that you chose that on some level. But what I do teach is that you do choose the people that you're here to learn the lessons from.
Hi everyone, I am Julie Edmonds, your host of Channeled, tapping into the wisdom of your soul. Hello and welcome to Channeled, tapping into the wisdom of your soul. And today we're honored to have the lovely guest, Emily Lewis. Emily is a spiritual mentor and a quantum energy healer. She reads Akashic Records and she's also a galactic channeler. She helps old souls heal through intuition activation, past life regression, and she even does shadow work. She guides them to reclaim psychic gifts, manifest abundance, who doesn't want that, and live a freedom-filled, purpose-driven life. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm super happy to have you. So let's just dive right in. Let's get started. Can you tell me a little bit about how you came into this mystic Emily life?
Oh my gosh, yes, so much to say. As a child, I was very into spirituality, which is funny because I grew up in a Roman Catholic household. I went to Catholic school my whole life, and my parents were religious, not spiritual, but I was very drawn to astrology and numerology and the chakras from as young from what I remember as 10, 11 years old. And so I would go to Barnes and Noble with my mom and I would just wander into the New Age section and would just go through all of the books. And I remember asking her to buy for me my first tarot deck and books about the other thing too is I was very boy crazy as a kid and would love to read the astrology books about compatibility to see if I could be compatible with one of my childhood crushes.
That's cute. That's great.
Yeah, so I really was into it in my childhood, and I have just kind of dabbled a little bit here and there with spirituality throughout the course of my life. But I, of course, as we do, wanted to live a normal life, didn't even consider that this could be something that I could do for a living. So I went to college to study marketing and business, and I graduated with a corporate job in the retail world, in the fashion marketing space as a retail buyer for a big retail company. And so I worked in that job for several years out of college. And it was a really great job on paper. I felt like I had made it sort of in my early 20s, as we do. I was traveling to New York once a week. I was sort of living this kind of glamorous lifestyle, if you want to call it that. But on the inside, I was super burnt out. I was having a really hard time. I was waking up in the middle of the night with panic attacks and was very disconnected from my body and exhausted. And I thought that something was wrong with me. So I started seeking therapy and I started trying to figure out like what was going on. And I just felt like something was off. So I also felt like my body could not continue living that high stress lifestyle that I was living. And so at the beginning of 2020, at the time I was very into fitness and health and wellness. And so I would go to the gym before my corporate job and I would look at the personal trainers at my gym And I would see that they were helping people and they had this job where they could be working with people one on one on a daily basis. And I thought to myself, how magical would that be to take my passion, my drive for health and fitness, and really use that to help other people? So I launched a health coaching virtual business at the beginning of 2020 before the pandemic hit. I got a personal training certification. I went down the business coaching rabbit hole. I started building an Instagram following, and then the pandemic hit and the world shut down. And I started working from home. And while I was working from home, as I was building my fitness business, I started to dabble back in spirituality again. I started listening to spiritual podcasts. I got the old dusty spiritual books off the shelf. I started looking
Which
at
dusty books did you pull off a shelf? Which ones?
my astrology course. I had taken an astrology course in like 2017 that I had forgotten about. And I had this binder where I had been doing practice birth chart readings for people in my life. I got the Psychic for Teens book off the shelf and the Tarot for Teens book. And yeah, I really had a fun time getting back into it. And then what happened next was I started learning about the psychic world. That was an area I hadn't really learned much about yet. That we can have access to intuition and we can have access to the spirit world and spirit guides. And learning about those topics really awakened something within me that I started to wonder, do I have gifts like that? Is that something that I could learn how to work with? Is that something that's possible for me? And so I started going on a journey working with spiritual teachers. Again, we're in the middle of the pandemic, so everyone's at home. It's a great time to take spiritual courses. And I really launched myself fully into that. I started having beautiful experiences connecting with my loved ones on the other side through mediumship. And I started taking those gifts that I was developing in meditation and I started using them to help my fitness training clients that I was working with.
So let's stop right there because that was a lot. So as this
Yeah.
spiritual child seeking astrology and reading tarot cards and reading about books, and then moving away from that to this marketing life, and then going into this role in the gym, practicing and building yourself in sort of almost like a little corporate world, taking away from the spiritual side. COVID hits, and all of a sudden you're like, wait, there's something missing. I need to get back into this. And then you started developing these skills. Do you feel like you were developing these skills, or were they all along there and you just became awakened to them? And if so, how did that come about? How did you start to feel these certain different qualities?
I love that question. I really started to feel like they were being awakened from within me and I was remembering them.
Remembering. Okay. Wow. Remembering. Okay.
Yeah. Because I started to realize that in my childhood, I had, I was a very dreamy kid and I had these moments in my bedroom, my childhood bedroom, where I would have these conversations with imaginary friends. I put that in quotes. And I had this fantasy world, what I thought was a fantasy world of these friends that I would talk to. I had names for them. They had different characters. I would tell my parents about them. And I didn't realize what that was. And then when I started working with my psychic gifts, I realized I was actually talking with spirit guides the whole time.
How did your parents respond to that
To that in adulthood or in childhood?
in childhood?
In childhood, they embraced it, but they saw it as me role playing and me being dramatic and me
Hmm.
being creative. And they were open to the play and they reinforced it through laughter. But looking back, I don't feel like they fully understood what was going on.
Yeah, I hear that story a lot, including, I mean, you sound like you have the same life and upbringing as me with Catholic panic attack, stress.
Yep.
Now let's fast forward now to the recent years. You've dealt you're like deep into Akashic Records, mediumship. Let's start with one at a time. Tell us what's Akashic Records and how do you read them?
Yeah, so the Akashic Records are the multidimensional library of the universe. And they are a metaphysical library, a non-physical library that we tap into using our psychic and intuitive senses. So I learned how to access them through my own intuition, through my own psychic gifts. And I believe that anyone who can tap into their intuition and their psychic gifts can tap into the records. And really, what the records are, they give us information about ourselves at a soul level, our past lifetimes, who we've been in this lifetime. Even we can even tap into future timelines and future possibilities
How do
because they are,
how do you ask a question?
yeah.
How do you get an answer?
When when I ask a question, I'm either asking it out loud or internally. And my psychic gifts, my main gift is clairaudience. So I receive a message in my mind, like a sentence. I sometimes will see a vision, like images in my mind's eye, or I will just know of something to be true. That's the clear cognizance piece of things, or feel it, the clear sentience.
Oh wow, that's so great, Emily. And so a lot of people, as their intuition's beginning to awaken or they're tapping into it or remembering, if you will, a lot of times they think, I think I'm just making this up. What if I'm just making this up? How do you get over that?
Yeah, that's a big one for many of us, myself included, especially when the spiritual experiences that we have can sometimes be unbelievable and hard to understand, hard to put into words. I still have clients to this day. I still do readings for people, and I still feel for myself, I can't believe this happened. Like I can't believe that this came through and they're validating it for me. It's wild. So it's through practice, it's through repetition, it's through consistency, and it's through growing in confidence in yourself and trusting in yourself that what you're receiving is real, is true, is accurate. So I teach my clients to really validate their experiences. And again, through that practice of consistently connecting with them, you start to build trust that it is real.
Right. No, that's so important. I love that you said that. Do you have a daily practice that you can share that helps you tap into that realm, that deeper realm?
I do. So I start my morning by saying out loud to my spirit guide team, "Good morning, universe. Good morning, spirit guide team. Hello, how are you today?" I say it out loud in my living room and I take a few deep breaths so I ground into my body. And then I start connecting with them. I ask them for help with clearing my energy. I ask them for help with protecting my energy for the day. I ask them for help with clearing and aligning my chakra system. And then once that's all complete, and again, I've taken some deep breaths, then I will really just sit with my energy and I'll ask questions. Maybe there's a topic that's top of mind for me that day, or maybe I want my next action step. I will ask them questions, and that honestly takes me 10 minutes, and that's how I start my day.
Wow, that's awesome. I love it. And so I'm sure it's quite grounding. So Emily, when clients come to you, what do they typically ask for?
Clients typically want help with expanding their spiritual gifts, as well as trusting in themselves. And I also work with a lot of entrepreneurs, spiritual entrepreneurs specifically, who want help with expanding their spiritual businesses. So, one of the biggest things that I work on is visibility and helping people feel seen for being their most true, authentic selves.
I love it.
Because, yeah.
I love it. So you mentioned earlier that when you started tapping into your intuition and you started really understanding your psychic gifts, it helped you in your fitness world. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I started to see that there was an energetic connection for my clients between their their connection with their body and also what was going on for them emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I started to see that mind, body, soul is so intimately intertwined and connected, and that if we want to have a loving relationship with the body, we have to learn how to love ourselves. We have to learn how to love all parts of ourselves. We have to, it's not just about counting the macros and getting to the gym every single day. It's also about internally realizing, how do I feel? And am I able to give myself the love that maybe I wasn't receiving as a kid, or that I did not experience in my life, or my life circumstances, led me to experience the world differently. Can I slow down and feel and give myself permission to just be me? And it's really interesting when we give ourselves that love that we so are deeply desiring, our relationship with our body totally shifts.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a beautiful answer. And so when you're working with your clients in the gym, I imagine that you still have
No, that's not even part of my business anymore. No.
so you've moved
Yes.
on there.
Yes.
Got it. Well, I love that you said that because, I've worked in the sales industry and, I've built a large organization of sales offices, but, I've really helped them they're all entrepreneurs. And it's not just about the go, 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 get. It's about opening up, learning to receive, letting go of past garbage and junk and decluttering. And it's all definitely spiritual. And it's all on a deeper soul. So, when you say you have entrepreneurs come to you and they ask you about their gifts, how do you help them find that?
That's a beautiful question. I would say for the most part, my clients are coming to me with their gifts activated. So they have a certain level of knowledge of who they are and who they want to become. So I am an expert at helping people really refine their niche and what I call their spiritual X factor. So within the spiritual industry, there are so many different realms, there's so many different specialties that people can have. And for example, Reiki, like Reiki is so well known, it's an energy healing technology, so many people work with it because the marketing field is so crowded with people offering Reiki. We need to find a way that we can take that gift and really specialize it and really hone it and really make that your craft. So I love helping my clients. Like, for example, one of my clients is an expert autoimmune and helping clients heal from chronic health conditions. So we really were able to develop this cool niche for her where she is focusing on a brand for herself that's all about body consciousness and being a body consciousness expert and being a body love expert focused on creating this like BFF relationship with the body, which is so fun.
So when you have a client like that and you're looking for their niche, do you channel? Do you channel that information? What's your process?
Yes and no. It's a mix.
Okay.
So usually, well, it depends on the client, but there is generally a lot of inner work that needs to happen before the client's ready to receive what they're here to focus on and what they're here to specialize in. So I actually spend quite a bit of time, again, depending on the client and their circumstance and what they're ready for. We spend some time going into the aspects of healing that maybe they've been avoiding or ignoring or bypassing, spending some time there doing that work. I use the Akashic Records as my main modality for that. And that gives them the support and the confidence to really unleash their true self, their true potential.
Wow.
And then they start to come into this awareness of like, this is who I really am. This is who I really am. So then when it comes time for us to focus and go in on the business, they're like, okay, Emily, I have all of these ideas. How can we really make this cohesive? And then I start to channel and we start to connect the dots. And there's this like beautiful sort of business brand vision that comes to life from there.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's cool. It's fun.
How do you channel? Tell us what's your process of channeling?
So I use the records for everything. So at the beginning of a client session, I guide them through a gentle meditation just to help them relax and ground. And once they're gently in the space, then I open the records for them. Then I'll guide them out of the meditation and we'll start a conversation. And when I'm channeling, I usually have my eyes open like this conversation that we're having. Sometimes I have my eyes closed and I will talk, I will channel messages, and I will interpret what I'm being shown, what I'm feeling, what I'm hearing, what I'm sensing. And I will interpret that to the best of my ability with my client. And then I will pause and I will say, does that resonate with you? How is that landing? Then my clients are like, oh my gosh, it's so wild. This makes sense. This makes sense. So yeah, it's a very cool, fun process.
That's amazing. So I have a question for you because, I've been channeling my whole life and I've done a lot of that. And there were years and years where I would channel, but then somehow I wouldn't close that vessel and I'd have all this anxiety and I didn't know how to sort of
Mm,
have those
yeah.
boundaries. So for people that are channeling and they're just sort of this like how do you open and close the door? What's your process?
Yeah, so I really just spoke to opening the door at the beginning of the session. We've created the sacred space. The meditation helps us get into that space so the client can feel safe, grounded, and protected. And then at the end, we close the records. And when the records are closed, after I get and the other thing too is I ground the client before they get off the call with me so that they feel like their channel is closed. Then, when they get off the call with me, that's when I ask for a full clearing of my energy with the help of my guides. I cut cords with my client. I separate my energy from their energy, bring all my energy back to me. And then I'll usually do some sort of like shaking it off or like a little dancing ritual. And that just sort of helps me come back to myself again.
Oh, that's such great advice. I went to get my Akashic Records read. I can't even remember. It's like 15 years ago or so, or maybe 20. It was a long time. It's all a blur now. But
Yeah.
afterwards, I don't think that he did that because I was trying to drive home and I couldn't even see. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so blurry.
Oh, oh, mm-hmm.
There was like people in my car, even though I was alone. I mean, I had to pull over and find something to eat and just ground myself. It probably took at least a half hour.
Yeah, that's not great. Yes. And I tell my client, I literally have it written in my calendar when you book a reading with me. You cannot be driving or operating heavy machinery when you come to a reading. You must be pulled over in your car.
Well, I went during the reading, I was, you know,
Good. Yeah, that's good.
afterwards, but I still
Hmm.
couldn't drive. I was like, wow,
Totally.
where am I? I'm not inside my body.
Yes, yes.
That's awesome. So you talk about working with old souls. So how do you define or how do you know if someone is an old soul?
An old soul to me is someone who feels like, despite their age, because this is not about, the age of your human vessel, it's about how you feel about the human experience and the wisdom and the maturity that you feel from within. I tend to see that old souls usually they have an experience in their life where they feel kind of like an outsider, or they feel like maybe the more mature one in the friend group, or they sometimes maybe will feel like the one on the outside looking in. And to me, an old soul is someone who has lived a lot of lifetimes before this one. So you've had past lives here on this planet, you've had past lives in other places, spaces, galaxies in our universe. And you've taken all of that experience, wisdom, and knowledge from your other lives, and you've brought it here into this lifetime in order to be on a mission, to be of service, to help others in some way. And so usually you kind of come into this awareness, you feel purposeful, like you're here for a mission or a purpose.
Yeah,
I feel like
deeper,
those are the biggest qualities.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
deeper mission, deeper soul.
Hmm.
So I'm certified in hypnotherapy and I did a lot of work uncovering, trauma in this lifetime, but obviously it goes back to other lifetimes and other lifetimes. And I see that you work a lot with past lives. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's so fun. It's fascinating. I am able to see in my mind's eye a past life for a client like a movie that's flashing in my mind with who they were, general age range, the location approximately, as well as the role that they played. And it's fascinating because it clues us into how that lifetime is impacting them now. So there's always an intention behind why we're looking at the past life in the first place. We're not just doing it out of pure curiosity or for fun. We're doing it because there's something going on in your life. You're feeling resistance, you're feeling blocked or stuck or whatever it is. We want to get to the root of where that's coming from. And so I'm able to take a look at for you, channel for you what the lifetime is that's creating the resistance. And then we talk about it. We talk about what your soul learned from it. We talk about how it's impacted you and how it's impacting you now as an adult. And it's just fascinating to hear how all of the little tidbits and things resonate with my clients when they hear about their lifetimes.
I find it fascinating. Uh,
Yeah.
I find it like so you actually see it for them. So, because when we do hypnotherapy and past life regression, we have them go, tap into it. This is
Yes.
actually
Themselves.
I studied with Dolores Cannon. I had one of her quantum healers. I think phase three. I can't remember that, but anyway, everybody always wants to go back to this life where they think they're this king or this
I know.
and I
Yeah.
was like this poor guy li-
Yep. Of
living in poverty, and my whole family died or something like that. I'm like,
course.
come back to this life.
Of course. Yep.
So funny. But you know what? I recognize in some of those things, there's one past life regression I had. My brother in this lifetime was there. So do you see, like, do you have that as, do you recognize those as soul contracts coming back to relive, or people relive lives over and over again? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So we have soul contracts with all of the main relationships in our life in this lifetime. And though we choose before we come here who is going to help us fulfill our soul's evolutionary journey by teaching us certain lessons. Now, what I always say to my clients is that we choose the characters, we do not choose what they do to us and the actions that they take.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. This is great. Okay, tell me.
Yeah. This is my belief because I do not teach to my clients that they manifest their trauma. I'm really big on that. I don't want you believing or feeling that if you've gone through abuse or if you've been through really horror at the hands of horrible situations because of other people, I don't want you to believing that you chose that on some level. But what I do teach is that you do choose the people that you're here to learn the lessons from, and you do choose the lessons energetically at a higher level. So you're choosing to learn maybe boundaries, or you're choosing to learn empowerment, or self-love, or divine will, or whatever the lesson is. And unfortunately, we can go through horrible traumatic things that happen to us. But what is our responsibility is to choose healing, is to choose a path of growth, is to choose a path of evolution in a different way. And so, yes, we do have soul contracts with our main cast of characters, mom and dad, siblings, romantic partners, friends, all of the above. And we have had past lifetimes with them where in this life we are finishing the karmic loop, or we are continuing to learn the lesson, or we are ending the karmic cycle of sorts that was started in another lifetime.
Do you believe that someone can live multiple lifetimes together, even if they've finished, maybe they've learned the compassion or they learn the acceptance or, the whatever it is, do you feel like they still choose to continue to live a life together as compatible?
Oh, 100%. And that's more of a soulmate soul contract. So that's going to be, or a soul family soul contract is another way to put it. That's going to be someone who you have such a deep soul bond with, you understand each other at a really deep level. There's this deep sense of love. There's this feeling that it's an energetic match. And that can be, of course, like we think soulmate, we think romantic, but that can also be friends, that can be spiritual teachers, that can be your family members, your children, it can be any other relationship in your life. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, no, when I have three children, and I just remember, specifically having this moment where, well, first of all, the first one, when he came, he told me his name. And when I looked at him, I'm like, you're an old man. You're not this tiny little baby. It's just this weird, they're coming in from their past life, I think. And I remember looking to their eyes, like, I know you. I recognize you. I know you.
Hmm. That's so beautiful. Yes.
I love it. And so, okay, so let's move on. You talk about shadow integration. Can you speak to what is that? What does that mean? And how do you get people through their, shadow work?
Yeah, so the shadow is really it's the subconscious and the unconscious mind. It's the part of our energy field that contains our past lives, more of the traumatic experiences, of course, as well as the aspects of ourself that we have disowned or shamed or are refusing to love, refusing to take a look at. And so what I help my clients with is identify those aspects of self from past lives from this lifetime that have been pushed away and shunned and are not fully embodied. And I find that these aspects of self really hold the deepest wisdom. They are parts of ourself that we've learned our deepest lessons, or they can sometimes even contain our deepest gifts. So I help my clients come to awareness about what those are by reflecting it back to them through my own channel, as well as guiding them through meditations and things to help them come to the awareness from within. And then we take a look at, okay, what are some of the action steps that you can take to really integrate this and embody this? Like if you were afraid of your power in a past lifetime, how can you really step into your power in this lifetime? Maybe it's by advocating for yourself or setting the boundary or getting out there on Instagram on your story and, talking about what you do. So,
Yeah, I know
yes.
so many people are just, really live small and afraid, or that imposter syndrome, especially working with so many entrepreneurs, like that imposter syndrome is just, it's actually traumatic as well.
It is.
Um,
Totally.
okay, so shadow work. What's your favorite modality? Because it seems like you work with a lot of them.
Oh my gosh. Well, the records. Yes. Just brings me so much joy. But what I find even more powerful than that, I also teach the records. So I teach people how to access their own records and how to do readings for others. And that is honestly my favorite thing to do, because there's nothing more rewarding than a client coming to me and saying, "You changed my life. You
Wow.
guided me to a modality that completely changed the trajectory of my life. And I know myself so much better. And it's done really miraculous things for me." So that's been really cool.
That's awesome. Can you give an example of like maybe a reading? You don't have to obviously talk about someone specific, but some maybe an aha moment that you remember in the moment that the listeners go, wow, okay, that's what that means.
My gosh, I mean, I just did a reading for someone today that I've been working with for about a year now. And she came into her first reading just with so much resistance and maybe not fully open to some of the messages that were coming through. And we've been working together on her really owning her power and owning her gifts and feeling worthy and deserving of her spiritual connection. And so today I was shown at the very beginning of the session, the guides were handing her this massive sword with an amethyst on it, and they were giving her these specific messages about her owning her identity and her name. And after I told her all of these things, she said, "You're not going to believe this. I just went to a workshop over the weekend. And in the workshop, my spirit guides were giving me this massive sword to wield." And you probably don't remember this, Emily, but a few months ago, you channeled this thing for me about how I can't accept my identity because there was an issue with my name. I didn't know this, but I asked my mom about it, and she was actually going to name me something else and decided on a different name for me that ended up being the name that's now on my birth certificate.
No way. Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just crazy,
Oh,
crazy
no,
things.
but it
I have
always
stories on stories.
It always is. It always
Mhm.
is. Especially like when I do my hypnotherapy, we come out, I was like, really? That is not
Yeah,
what I'm even thinking, because our logical mind and our unconscious or our subconscious mind are completely different. And, tapping into that subconscious and that unconscious area like knows all the answers. And so
totally. Hmm.
us, right? So that was a fun story. It's a fun story. So when you tell someone your guides are giving you this giant sword with this giant amethyst, like what is that? How do you translate that to them? Is that like specific symbols that you get, or is it for them? Or, because I like, well, I don't have a sword, I don't have an amethyst. What does that mean?
Yeah, I just tell them what I'm being shown, and then I say, "This is what I'm seeing. My interpretation of this is this. Like, what does this mean to you?" And for my client, I told her this to me represents being a warrior priestess, because it does. And I told her that, and she was like, "Oh, well, that's what I saw in my meditation this weekend."
Wow, that's awesome.
So, yeah, it's very cool. Usually there's maybe some layers of symbology for me, but they also have a personal connection with it as well.
That's amazing. So, so after COVID, you started tapping into, you said you were getting some psychic mentors or what, how did you get down? How did you sharpen your skills?
Yeah, so the first spiritual teacher I worked with was a mediumship teacher. I wanted to, because I have been through a big journey of healing grief in my life. I lost loved ones, tragic circumstances in 2017. And
Oh,
so I've been on a journey of healing from that. And I wanted to develop my mediumship skills to connect with those loved ones again. So, my first sort of foray into the spiritual gift space was working with a mediumship teacher who helped open me up to the fact that our loved ones do exist in spirit and that we can connect with them.
nice. And do you feel like you can connect to anyone that you want to?
If the loved one wants to come forward, I can do my best. I can't make people do anything.
Right, right. No, that's true.
Yes. For the most part, yes.
That's awesome. And so when you do that, how is it same thing? You see it through like a movie or sentences or vision?
Mhm. I do, yes. Yeah, I remember the first ever reading I did, my teacher had us, she threw us to the wolves. She said, "Here's your practice partner. Try to do a reading for them."
Wow.
And I was in my living room. So I was not live on a Zoom call with the person I was reading for. And I did a little meditation. I connected with her energy and I just started seeing faces in my mind's eye. And I saw the face, and then I saw a little boy with a baseball bat, and he told me his name, and he told me a story, and he told me how he had passed away. And so I wrote all of this down. And then I sent my practice client this email with like all of these people, and she was like, "Yep, that's this person. That's this person. That's my neighbor whose son passed away from
Total
this."
confirmation for
And
you.
I was like, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah.
It was crazy. I had never done that before and it just blew me away.
Wow, that's awesome. So I grew up in a house that was a hospital during the Civil War.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so well, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so,
Hmm.
we were sort of subjected to all of those things from birth.
Yeah.
And so how I would see spirits then, it's different than how I would see them now. Probably because I learned how to like, I don't know,
Yeah.
block out the things that I don't want to see.
Hmm.
But I just remember being very scared growing up. So someone who may be afraid of their gifts, what would you say to them?
Oh, I've been there. I was so afraid that I would get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom and there would be a ghost in my hallway. I know, I get it. And I also live in a 100-year-old building here in Philadelphia. There's a lot of spirit activity. I've had spirit activity in my house. And the spirit world truly is not scary. There is nothing to be afraid of. They will not hurt you. They just want, spirits just want their stories to be told at the end of the day. They want to make the connection because they have a story, they have a message to share, they want someone to listen. And so I say that. And I also say, too, that they don't really want to bother you and they're not going to, tug on your pant leg and pull you down to pull you down to the ground when you're walking to your bathroom in the middle of the night. Most likely, they're not going to hurt you.
Like Amityville horror.
Like a horror movie. They're not going to hurt you in that way. It's so gentle. Your psychic gifts are so gentle and subtle. You're probably already connecting with the spirit world and you don't even realize it. So I believe it's better to not have the blind spots. I'd rather know than be blind to what's going on around me.
Oh, that's a great answer. I'll tell you what, it's helped me. And I feel like this is probably maybe my next mission in life, but I've been writing this book from the 1900s. And but all these spirits have been talking to me. It's not, they knock on the door and come right in and they're talking
Yeah.
to me. And so I'm writing their story. Of
Oh,
course,
I love it.
part of it, a lot of it is fiction too. So you have to add
Fun.
to it. But I'm like, I know that these people existed. I don't have their specific names, but it's just that, I've turned it into this huge, joyful creative process. And it's been wonderful for me. So
That's magical. I love to hear that.
thank you. So Emily, what's next for you? Obviously, I'm sure, you're on this path of growth and you're connected to source and you're probably always improving on your psychic gifts. What's next? What are you looking into next?
Yeah, I am starting the retreat journey. So I'm hosting a retreat this fall in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, in the Smoky Mountains in
Ooh,
October, which is going to be really magical. And I'm also working on an international retreat in the spring next year. So I just have such a passion for bringing spiritual community together. And there's something magical about being in person. So I can't wait to facilitate some in-person experiences and yeah, create some sisterhood in that way.
that's awesome. What do you do in your retreats? Is it all of the above that we've discussed, or?
Yes, and also fun too. I feel like spiritual women, especially the clients that I work with, were high achievers or busy people with busy lives. And so I want my clients on the retreat to let their hair down, relax, have a good time. We're going to be horseback riding. We're going to be in the mountains hiking. We're going to go to Dolly World for the day. So my retreat co-host and I were making sure that we're weaving in lots of activities to bring joy.
We
Yes.
were all I went to
Yes.
Dolly World with my kids years ago. It was so fun.
I love it.
All right, just a fun couple quick rapid fire questions. So what's your favorite
Ready. What's my favorite color? Um, oh my God, it always changes. It's green right now.
and tell me why?
Heart chakra. I'm
Oh,
on a journey of healing my heart chakra. Mhm.
so that's what came heart. What color green?
Sage green. If we can't tell by
As
the
you're wearing
video.
it and your water bottle
Yes, and my nails.
of your nails. That's great. Mine's like a blue as if we can't tell.
I love it. Yep.
That's great. And so, do you like to wear high heels or flip-flops?
Flip-flops.
Flip-flops. Okay. Spicy or none?
Non-spicy.
No, okay. I grew up in Louisiana. I like the Tabasco sauce.
Not me. Nope.
So any last words of advice to our listeners?
You already have everything you need within you. It's about getting to know yourself better. It's about really enhancing your magic, your sparkle, getting your zest for life back again. This is not a journey of going outside of yourself to like seek some spiritual quest. It is truly about coming back home to yourself. And all the breadcrumbs are there. Look back on your childhood. What were your interests? What were your passions, your hobbies? I promise you, when you sort of take a look at your life from a bird's eye view, you will see the commonalities, the threads, and when you start to weave them together into the beautiful tapestry of who you are, it's a very fulfilling journey, and your spiritual gifts will open up and evolve from there.
That's awesome. That's great. Emily, thank you so much today. It's a wealth of knowledge. I could talk to you for a lot longer, but in respect of time, tell us where our listeners can find you.
Yes, you can find me at Emily the Mystic and emilythemystic.com. That's me on all social media platforms.
Great. EmilyTheMystic.com. Awesome. Well, thank you, Emily, so much for tapping into your soul for our episode channeled, Tapping into the Wisdom of Your Soul. If you like it, subscribe, come back for more. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.